Phone rings. All right. Welcome to the early birds. Some of you may be already on LinkedIn for the LinkedIn Live for this Exportia Lab. We're going to wait a few more minutes until we're on time. Well, we start at 9:30 for the Exportia Lab, so that's when we are going to start. I'd like to welcome you all to this September Exportia Lab. So it's only 9:27, so we are waiting to start on time. Welcome, welcome. Just a few more minutes. Welcome to the early arrivals, early participant. And welcome to the ones as well who tend to listen to the lab simply on the recording. It's fine too. Welcome to you as well. Right, 2 more minutes before we start. A lot of familiar names, I have to say, this month on the registrants, so I'm very happy to see you guys. And a lot of new names as well. So that's always exciting to see that happening as well. All right, 1 more minute and we'll be on our way. Welcome, welcome. We're going to start in 1 minute. Yes, sharp. As usual, we like to be on time. All right. Welcome, welcome. Make yourself comfortable. Have your coffee, your tea, your glass of water, and we are together for 30 minutes for this Exportia Lab. We'll wait for 1 more minute. Oh, here it comes. We're ready to start. Let's go. Let's do it. Hi, everyone. My name is Christelle, and I'm your host on this monthly Exportia Lab. And I would like to first acknowledge country. So in the spirit of reconciliation and this big event happening in October, Exportia acknowledged the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples today. Welcome, everyone. So today, this month, we are going to talk about influence and the art of influencing applied to technology businesses entering the European market. So we have people today from Australia, from the US, from Asia, from different countries. So I'm very happy we have that opportunity. Some of you are on LinkedIn. Leo, our digital marketer, is there. And you know, most of you know him already. He's going to read your comments on LinkedIn and pass to me any question you may have. So feel free to comment and pass any question. I'll do my best to respond to them as we go. Okay, let's start. So what I found throughout the years is that small businesses can actually use the power of influence to unlock their sales as they enter the European market. I know it sounds a bit ambitious, but it's true. And we have done it not once, not twice, but many times. And that's what we are going to talk about today. So for those, most of you know me, but so let me just say quickly, I'm the CEO of Exportia, founded the business. I founded the business in 2006 in Australia, and 23 years of business development experience in Europe for small business in technology sector. I also write books. Some of you have my book in your hands, I know that. And the third book, which will be a collection of export stories to the European market, this one, the white one, will be released in November. So as I said, started the business as I migrated from France in 2006 to Australia, and now this is where we're at. We provide an outsourced European sales and marketing team, and we want to scale tech businesses to their first €1 million in sales and beyond. We are a small team of 10. And this is our core team. We have 2 offices, one in Europe and one in Australia. We're all multilingual in the team because we're all Europeans, and that's what we do. Okay, so why am I sharing this topic today? Why are we talking about influencing for small business? Well, to buy a technology from a newcomer, a European customer or a European buyer will need to trust your technology and will need to trust you as well. So, and that's not an easy task. When you're a small business, you haven't sold to Europe before. How do you bridge that gap? So this is what we are going to break down today. And we are going, you know, I like my frameworks. So we are going through a 6-element framework today. We are going to look at your ideal customer profile, then how influence can be applied in Europe, what's specific about Europe. We're going to talk about the myth of the star, the superstar influencer that is going to help you spread the word. We're going to talk as number 4, how we should use, who we should use as influencers, as small businesses, how to formalize an influencer partnership, and then how we can amplify that influence. So we're going to go through those 6 points. Okay, number 1, let's start. This is where it all starts, your ideal customer profile. Okay, this is so important for you to know who you are going to focus on first to be able to influence that ideal customer profile. You want to be very, very clear on who is your ideal customer profile and what they look like, which industry, which even down to the job role and to their department, to their industry. You want to be very specific on your ideal customer. When I say ideal, I mean the customer that is willing to pay for your technology, that is actually going to do a profitable deal with you, and that is also for which you are also solving a meaningful problem. So you need to be able, for that ideal customer profile, you need to be able to articulate what pain does this industry suffer from, and you need to know and be very clear on how you solve that problem and what is the outcome. So to be able to build some influence in the market, the first thing to know is where are you going and what are you focusing on to build your influence. The second step is, how does that apply to Europe? I'm going to go to Europe. I know the industry I am going to focus on. How how am I doing this in Europe? Okay, so in Europe, there's a lot of small businesses are actually trying to go everywhere in every country in the European market. So I can tell you that as a start for a small business, going multi-country does not work, right? At the beginning, it's basically it's quite distracting for the team. We've got, so a small business, we've got or high growth business, we have a small bandwidth. We're trying to stretch too much, but also to build traction, you really need to be focused on one country, or even sometimes just one region within a country. This is how you can really be very focused, build a deep understanding of that industry in that country, and this is how you can grow your traction. And it's much more efficient. You don't have to translate your material in every single European country. You don't have to travel to all those different regions. You stay focused, and it's much more efficient. And then you make sure you don't do a bad job with these new customers that are so important for your business. You are in a much better position to really support them really well. Okay, so in a summary, country focused versus Europe-wide. This is how we are going to have more influence and how we are going to have more traction. A regional approach as well sometimes is also very clever. You know that, for example, in some areas, so I can mention, for example, areas in specific industry that are very concentrated in Europe. So we're doing some projects at the moment in the lab industry. We are just only in the lab and pharma industry. We are just going to focus in the Basel area in Switzerland. We're just doing that regional focus. If we succeed there, it is a very nice springboard to other areas within that country and within Europe. It has a lot of influence. So regional approach is clever, and I'll tell you a bit more in a second about the regional approach. What's interesting in Europe is that how European countries' interconnections work and how the networks work. So you know that there are different languages in Europe, as you all know, and basically, if you speak German, there's strong chances, or if you're based in the south of Germany, there's strong chances that you may work in your life in Bavaria, in the south of Germany, but maybe as well in Austria and in Switzerland. So those neighboring regions and countries have very strong links. So very likely, if you are going to target that region, then you're successful in it, you can probably connect then after that in the neighboring region. There is also in South Europe, within Italy, Spain, and France, there are some strong connections where in some industries, there's a lot of, for example, Spanish doctors who studied in France, it can happen, or there's a lot of connection within South Europe as well. Or what you can notice as well, if you go to French trade shows, there will be a lot of Italian companies coming. They are usually in the top visitors, as well as Spanish visitors. So you can see that within Europe, there are some strong connections within each of the region. If you go to a Düsseldorf show, you will see that a lot of Dutch visitors will be there. It's not far from them. So think about those interconnections and networks between European countries as you grow yourselves. All right, the myth of the star influencer. Okay, I'm going to tell you a bit of, it's a bit a new concept I'd like to bring to this Exportia Lab, but basically this is about a book that I've heard on a podcast. And the researcher who published it is called Damien Santola. And what he looked at is how Twitter effectively spread and how it grew to being one of the major social platforms. He looked at the origin. And so everybody knows that the origin, not everybody knows, but the myth is that because Oprah Winfrey in 2009 talked in her Friday Live show about Twitter, that's how it all took off. All right, that's what everybody thinks, that it really helped having that big influencer creating traction for Twitter, and that's where it all took off. And basically, Damien Santola, in his work at studying the snowball effect of influence and how social impact happens, he looked at the civil rights for African Americans. He looked at that movement. He looked at businesses like Twitter. And so what he found out for Twitter is that actually the initial spread of Twitter was offline, and it only happened from neighbor to neighbor, from friend to friend, and it was regional. So basically the initial growth of Twitter wasn't, as you would imagine, New York, San Francisco, LA, and so on. It was actually starting initially friends in the San Francisco Bay Area, sharing the information about Twitter and recommending it to each other, neighbors and friends. And then in the Bay Area, there was a earthquake, and so that's when more neighbors and friends used it in that region. It spread regionally in the countryside, not in LA, in the countryside. And it started to spread again. And then what he says is the next growth phase, it wasn't in New York, or it wasn't in a big city that you would expect. It actually went to Cambridge, Massachusetts. And the reason being, the early adopters of Twitter were actually technology students that had studied together. And so most of them went for work or for studies to Cambridge as well. So the next growth spurt of Twitter was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and then it spread again. And then the next one was in Seattle, another growth area where there's a big technology hub. So you can see that and he can see, and that's what he found out in his study, that by 2009, the Twitter adopters were already 20 million. And then they had a very huge growth, only neighbors and friends connection. And then Oprah came. So Oprah came only when the network growth was already there, and when it was already very big. So what does that mean and how do we apply to small business entering Europe? It means that when we try to build influence, we don't have to go and find a superstar, right? We need to find our industry of target, find the peers network, and focus on that only. We don't need a superstar. All right, so who should we use as influencers? Who should we work with? So the questioning, to whom does your target customers, peer group, listen to? So if I'm a lab technician in the Basel area, what is my peer group? If I'm a reseller of some sorts, who am I listening to? Whose recommendation I'm going to listen to? So here are a few ideas about potential influencers for small business to think about. So it could be a corporate. Your main influencer to target a peer group that is going to work together and communicate peer to peer could be a corporate. I'll give you an example in the automotive sector. We've worked with that company for 10 years, and where it's an accessory that is installed on ambulance and on a camper van. And so we worked and wanted to develop a distribution base for that client in the European market. But where it really took off is when we worked with the car manufacturer and we got these large corporates to adopt this technology, to test it, to endorse it, and to recommend it to its clients, the clients being those camper van manufacturer and being those ambulance manufacturer. So maybe there's a corporate in your network that is influencing your target customers. Think about it. Which corporate should you target? It could just be a person. It could be a person like in the IT sector, you have a lot of users group that are mostly run on a voluntary basis in regions, and you can find someone in IT running a user group that has built quite a good influence and that is able to spread the word about a specific technology within the peer group, working as a peer-to-peer. You could also have a journalist writing about a specific topic, and that is really in that area and an authority, and that is talking to your audience on a daily basis. Doesn't need to be a superstar, needs to be someone that is in that network. Okay, in the medical sector, there's not many of you in medical device today. I think if Ash, you're here, this might be for you, or maybe for anyone I don't see on LinkedIn. But basically, in the medical sector, you can work and try to find your key opinion leaders. There are some strict legal framework around that because of our lovely pharma consortiums, multinationals that have had a few trouble with that. So that means that we need to, if we are engaging an influencer to do some work, to test a medtech device or to write a publication, we may have to disclose that and get it approved by their internal board. So just letting you know. But most of you in the medical sector would be well aware. But it is very efficient. We have used that type of influence in the past. It can be informal. You may find a professor who loves your technology. We've had that with a German professor and wants to spread the word. It can also be a government organization, or it can be an industry organization. What happened to us in the past is we have many times we have worked in really highly regulated environment. So, you know, we're working on the application for pets at the moment. So the Ministry of Agriculture is a big influencer in that target market. So we're going to have to work with them and influence them to unlock the market. In safety, we've had to work a lot with government, but you can also work with industry associations. Within industry associations, they often have steering committees that think about solving a specific issue. And so they work together as a group of companies trying to tackle a specific issue. There's a lot of industry associations that are funded to do that. All right, number 5, we're 5 out of 6, we're getting there. And in terms of timing, I think we're okay. So far, so good. I haven't seen any question, but feel free to get ready for the question, guys. How to formalize an influencer partnership? There's different ways to do that. Let's look at it. Okay, first thing, what can an influencer do for you as a small business? Okay, there's different ways you can interact with them. They can, so the influencer, whether it's a corporate, it's an organization, it's a public organization, it's a person, they can simply test and share feedback about your product. Okay, they can test and endorse, say, I have tested, I trust it, and I recommend it. They just simply can share their experience. Say, this is I've tested that product, this is my experience. They can approve it if there is a specific, so if you go back to the question around, or if we go back to safety, for example, we had once for a safety device we worked for many years, we've had a German corporate in a cement industry that had been using the product for a number of years. They approved the product to be used by their employees worldwide. And so that means that they've approved it. Now it's available for all their employees to use, and they can order it internally. So that's the type of approval process you want to go through. They recommend, so that that same cement brand actually recommended to the Cement Association of Germany the use of that device, and they actively mention the name of this Australian company. They can also, if they're government, sometimes they can even subsidize a purchase of your product. Isn't it interesting? So it can happen that a government wants to implement or find a solution for a specific industry and subsidize it. So you can maybe also have a look at that. Okay, the case of key opinion leaders in the medical sector. They can you can build a full program that would be approved by the internal institutional board, and it can be a full program. They can be a contractor and conduct tasks, specific tasks or focus group. They can publish a paper including your product. They can hire. You can have a relationship whereby they hire an intern for you to conduct a project for you within their unit. It's highly regulated and needs to be disclosed. You know that. Okay, now the question that might surprise some of you, what can you do for an influencer? Yes, because this is a partnership. It's not just one way. All right, first of all, I'm coming back to the ideal customer profile, because you know their problem, you know how to solve it. First, you solve their number one problem. That's the way that's what you can do for an influencer. And you make it easy for them to buy from you or to test. You do a proof of concept, you do a trial, you do a deal, you support them with top-notch technical support. And you're easy to work with. You prepare what they need. I remember for some of our customers, they wanted to train their workers about how to use a specific technology. We just turned up with our clients team to train the worker on site with some banners, and we prepared all the content and everything. You just do what's needed. Okay, you be easy to work with, right? And also give them to voice what they need for future product development. You may not fully respond to their needs, but maybe you can in 2 years or in a year or in 6 months in your next product, get them to voice what they need. Okay, last one. Oh my God, we are 2 minutes from the end of the lab. Last one, 6 point. how to amplify your influence. It is all about reinforcing presence in networks trusted by the peers. Remember the Twitter story. It's about the neighbors, the friends, the colleagues, the student peers, people you've studied with, you worked with, and so how do we amplify our influence and what we're doing? Well, do you know the 7-11 4 rule, which has been identified and studied by Google? Well, what Google says, according to their research, is that a buyer needs 7 hours of interaction with you across 11 touch points. So maybe a newsletter, a trade show, a LinkedIn post, a phone conversation, and in four separate locations, so online, physically at a trade show, recommended by the local association, at their distributors, could be another location, before they actively purchase. I think we should use that as small business in our international strategy. Here example on how you can apply. You apply for an industry award. You present or exhibit at a local conference. You establish a local, another touch point, your distributor. You write an article in an industry magazine. You do a Facebook campaign. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, first, you be sure and know your ideal customer profile. How you apply influence to Europe? You can be regional and focused one country first and then go to the next. The myth of the star influencer. It's not about finding a superstar to recommend your product. It's about the peer and the peer-to-peer influence. Who should use as an influencer? In our case, small business in the tech industry, it could be a corporate, can be a person, like a key opinion leader, can be an industry body or a government, right? We can use those four. And basically how to amplify or how to formalize an influence partnership many ways. It can be very formal. It can be a formal endorsement, a formal partnership, a formal publication, or it can be informal, just somebody saying, this is a good technology, I'm going to talk about it to my peers. And how to amplify your influence? Well, you need to be present in those trusted networks by your ideal customer profile, okay? Remember the 4 platforms, 11 touches, and I think it's 7 hours, not 8. Okay, a challenge for you. Define which type of influencer you are going to focus on to reach your ideal customer profile in a specific country. All right, we're getting to the end. I'm 2 minutes late. It's making me very nervous. Using influence can be a powerful strategy that can really be applied to small business. We can use it for our international development. We absolutely can. All right, I am going to check if any of you have any question either on LinkedIn or any comment that you'd like me to respond to. We are a little bit late today, so feel free to actually reach out to me about it. If you want, I can share the publication. Actually, Damon Santola is often interviewed in podcast as well. So I'm happy to send you a link to a podcast where he was interviewed, and also the name of the book where he published his study. I think it's super interesting. Okay, so let's move on because we're going to have to wrap up. Our next lab will be in October, and it will be about how to prepare for Medica. We're going to have different time zones to accommodate the different audiences across the planet. And so 2 sessions, but the same topic, same Christelle, and same session. All right, so feel free to contact us if you need anything. You know where to find us, right? Thank you, merci. Dankeschön, bis bald. Tschüss, bye-bye.